recorded now. Okay, I'm going to call on you, so please state your name, your business, and nothing more. And then we'll go around the room. And then once we're done with introductions, we'll have Brian McDonald do a quick presentation on the updates from SBA. All right, I am going to call on you. Please remember to unmute yourself when speaking. Payne?
Hi, I'm Payne. I am the owner of Rainbow Healthcare Inc. It's a PCA agency located in St. Paul.
Gloria?
Hi, I'm Gloria Wan. I'm with Heritage and Healthcare as a PCA agency too. Thank you.
Greg?
Hi, I'm Greg Larson. I work at Drake Bank in St. Paul, right on Plato Avenue.
The display name is Jalan.
Sorry, my name is Janet Allen from Drake Bank too.
Oh, hi.
This is the first meeting I'm attending.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Jen Owens?
Hello, my name is Jen Owens and the name of my company is Jow Companies.
Ku? Who are you on?
Are you referring to Hmong name or?
Oh, I think JB Vang.
Oh, never mind.
I mean, if not, you're next to Richard. You can go. Richard?
So first. Richard Son with Four Stone Construction. We're a general contractor in the city of St. Paul.
Thank you, Rich. Kachua?
Hey guys, Satchel over at Ninja Sushi Food Truck and Smoking Ninjas Lounge.
Shane?
Hi, it's Shang with Lifestyle Adult Day Center.
Tanya?
Good morning, Tanya Bauer with the St. Paul Port Authority. Thanks for letting me join today.
Yi?
Happy New Year to all of you. My name is Yi Ku. I'm president of Manic Technology. Glad to be here with and be a part of the conversation today.
All right, I think that is all of our participants for today. Thank you all for joining us. And then I'm going to do a warm welcome for Brian McDonald, who is Minnesota District Office SBA District Director, and he's going to be giving us some updates. So you have the floor, Brian. I think everybody is wanting to hear what the updates are after long-awaited stimulus package that has been approved.
Right. So thanks for having me. Happy New Year. It's great to see some familiar faces on the call. I'm going to give kind of what we know at the moment as things are still evolving. So I do just want to emphasize to stay in touch with Yao and also to sign up for our newsletter because that's really how we're pushing out some of the latest information on program updates. Now we have a lot of different programs, so I'm really going to just focus on some of the new legislation, and I think that's probably what you all are interested in. There are a lot of new updates, a lot of new programs. We do have a new women entrepreneurship program that's going to be launching next week called Ascent. And then we do have a variety of other programs. I heard there's some contractors on the line. We have some great programs for contracting. But I'm really going to just focus on some of the new legislation and PPP. So yeah, I don't know. Am I able to share my screen? Because I do have a kind of a slide deck, but it's not official. So I'm not wanted to see if I could just throw up a couple slides that I was just putting together this morning. It was a late night, probably for most of you too, you know, watching what was happening at the Capitol. And then last night there are some new regs or IFRs, interim final rules, that just happened last night at about 1 a.m. From SBA. So I'm going to share this. I don't know if you can see it, yeah. All right. So we had some new regulations that came out governing the latest legislation. They just came out at 1 a.m. last night. There's 3 different documents. I'll make sure to share those with Yao so that that you guys have access to those, but they are on our website. So anything you need to know about Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, is on sba.gov/PPP. So you can go there. I'm just going to rip through a couple slides. So just overall, SBA, we're a federal government agency focused solely on small businesses starting, growing, expanding, and recovering. So we do have lots of different programs, but of course, lately we're most famous for PPP and EIDL. So kind of what I have here in the slides covers just an overview on PPP round 2, what those program improvements are. There's new money so this was all signed into law on December 27th. I just want to emphasize that at this point, you're not missing anything. You can't go to your lender right now and get another PPP loan. It's not yet open, even though new regulations came out last night. It's still gonna be days before all of that's available. So I just wanted to put that timestamp on this presentation as of today. But you can also see that there's a extension for EIDL. There is our Save Our Stages Act, so support for venues via grants. There's additional money for EIDL advances, and there's a lot of changes to our SBA lending program. So this is a lot of information. Again, I recommend signing up for a newsletter. Feel free to put questions in the chat too, and I can coordinate with Yao after. So if we just don't have time, or I just don't know the answer right now off the top of my head and I need to research it, we can get back to you. So some of the big highlights on PPP round 2, there's additional money into the program. So there is almost $5 billion appropriated for PPP. It would be extended now through March 31st. It previously expired back in August last summer. And so some of the eligibility and eligible expenses have been expanded. So I'm going to go into that at a high level. And the forgiveness for PPP loans under $150,000 will be streamlined. And there's really a bigger emphasis on underserved communities through CDFIs and our microloan program. So I'll go into a little bit more of a high level detail about that. On this new round of PPP, eligible businesses are going to include the following. So I think we heard a lot of confusion in the first round. I'm a sole proprietor. I don't qualify for this. I don't have any employees. Well, you still can qualify for PPP, even if you're an independent contractor, a sole proprietor, a self-employed individual. Those you're eligible. Faith-based housing cooperatives is new, I believe, for this round. In addition, so are chambers. Certain chambers are now eligible. But I did put a laundry list here of ineligible. So if you're a chamber and you're primarily lobbying. There's fine print on that if you might be ineligible. So I'll kind of push forward here. Just a quick snapshot of what some of the big high-level differences between the first round and the second round. Now PPP, you have to be a smaller small business, meaning under 300 employees instead of 500 like in the first round. And you do have to demonstrate a revenue reduction of at least 25%. So there is that threshold to qualify for these new PPP funds. And you have to have already, used the first PPP loan. And your business had to have been, just like in the first round, you had to have been created before February 15th, 2020. So not for a startup business. So that remained the same. So a little bit of difference here now in how to calculate the size PPP loan you qualify for. So basically you take your average monthly payroll and you multiply that by 2.5% or by 2.5. That's how you figure out your PPP loan size. And in the new legislation that just came out, if you are in the food services with a NACE code 72, that formula changes to 3.5. So you can qualify for a bigger PPP loan depending on what industry you're on. Unlike the first round, PPP loans can go up to 10 million. On this round, they're capped at 2 million. So those are some of the big differences there. The loan terms are the same as in the first round. So they're 1%, assuming you don't get it forgiven, it still can only be 1%. And this is some of the language from the legislation itself. And you do have, as a business owner, between 8 to 24 weeks to use the PPP funds. And so most of that, there's no big changes from the first round. There are some new things that you can use PPP funds for down at the bottom. Those 4 bullets at the bottom, there's new things that are eligible for PPP. But it remains the same as in the first round. There's a 60-40 split. So as long as 60% or more of your PPP loan is used for payroll, the full thing will be forgiven. So let's say you might have been a business impacted by civil unrest. That's a new eligible item for PPP. And if you had uninsured costs, let's say you got a $100,000 PPP loan, if you could use up to $40,000 to pay for damages from civil unrest that were uninsured. And as long as you use that other $60,000 for payroll, the whole thing would be forgiven. The $100,000 would be forgiven. So I'll just let you guys look over that. There's a few new expenses. That's kind of the big takeaway here that I wanted to highlight. Also, a big high-level item is the streamlined forgiveness for $150,000 or less. Congress is requiring us to create a one-page forgiveness application for $150,000 or less. So if you are getting a PPP loan up to that size, it's going to be much more streamlined. There is an extension of, like I mentioned, our EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So that's a direct loan from SBA. And so the difference there is that comes straight from us. The PPP loan, you go to your PPP lender. So there's a difference there, but that's been extended. Another big item is our Save Our Stages shuttered venue grant. And so really, if this is applicable if you are a live performance art organization, if you're a museum, a motion picture theater, operator, or promoter, you could qualify for this grant program. I'm not going to spend much time there, but I just wanted to highlight that is included in being administered by SBA. So if anyone has questions on that, I'm happy to try to help there. There is, again, the EIDL Advance program. So that is a program that is not a loan, but again, that comes directly from SBA. So there's more funding for these up to $10,000 advances. It made a technical fix. In the past, there was a link between forgiveness and these EIDL advances, and that repealed that requirement. So basically, there's no connection now between the EIDL advance program and your PPP loan forgiveness. One of the big highlights here, I think that doesn't get as much coverage, is the extension of the debt relief program. So SBA will pay the P&I, or principal and interest, on your SBA loan for up to 8 months under this new stimulus package. So that means if you have an SBA loan, we could actually make those payments on your behalf for up to eight months. It really depends. It's guaranteed to be a 3-month period. And then in this new legislation, there could be an additional 5 months of payments that you get, depending on if you have a microloan, a community advantage loan, or if you're an underserved borrower, which could include folks who are in the restaurant industry or a few other industries that were particularly hard hit. So this is a great incentive to use SBA programs and a great assistance for those that already have SBA debt. So it does change our traditional SBA programs. So if anyone has questions on that, our 7A program is kind of our flagship normal traditional SBA loan guarantee program. I saw Drake Bank is on the call. And so there's a lot of lenders here in Minnesota that can do an SBA guaranteed 7A loan. But it did just make these programs even stronger, is the high level overview there. And again, it just did some great things for fee reductions and refinancing on our traditional loan program. So there's really a lot of goodies in this stimulus package. And as you can see, there's a lot going on. It did also impact our microloan programs, and we have 9 microlenders, SBA microlenders here in Minnesota. And these microlenders provide small businesses loans up to $50,000. So there are some great programs in this legislation that that's helping our microlenders. So I know that's a lot of information. I've kind of flew through stuff, but there's so much detail. I think some of the big takeaways are that, here's some of the big points on the legislation. There's a lot of great things to dig into. EIDL is available. That's direct from SBA. PPP is going to be coming. You haven't missed anything as of this morning. It's not available to apply just yet, but you can start preparing. We don't even have the application for the next round of PPP up yet, so there's no way you haven't missed anything at this point, but it will be coming soon. We just put out some new regs and rules on it, so more is coming. The best way to know about that is to sign up for our updates and to follow us on social media. We're really active, and Twitter is the social media platform. I wish that we could be on Facebook and Instagram, but that's our what we're allowed to use. And so we put a lot of great funding alerts, policy updates. We live tweet during different events. So it's really kind of a nice way to filter through and find information there. So Yao, I'll turn it back over to you. And I'm happy to stick around for any questions, or just follow up after. I know I've taken up a big chunk of the time, so I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much, Brian. I know a lot of people have questions. I think one of the first questions is that where can we get a copy of this PowerPoint, or is it just the best to find on the website? Yeah, so what I would recommend is I can share with you afterwards, probably just some great resources. Okay. On some websites that I'll give to point people to. Okay, perfect. And then as soon as we're approved to give out some materials, I think there's some stuff coming this afternoon, then I'll be able to share more. perfect.
Yeah.
And the floor is open for questions, concerns, or anything that you may have. I do have a few questions here too, if well, we have some silence, but yes, feel free to jump in, members and attendees.
I have a question on EIDL. Okay, now since we already applied last year, do we just call the SBA and just to extend for the EIDL, or do we have to submit another application?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think it just extends it for those that might not have already gotten it. So I'll have to, I appreciate you asking that question. I think as far as I know, you know, it would just extend it because I think a lot of people hadn't applied and still wanted to, you know, it might not have gone through and they're working on reconsideration. But since you've already received it, I think there is a 12-month deferral period you should have gotten. So you shouldn't have to make any payments for the first 12 months on it regardless.
Well, what I meant was I already got the money for last year. I'm talking about this coming year. Now, there's no like second round EIDL, right? There's no second round.
Correct. So yeah, I haven't heard to answer your question specifically if you can get a second EIDL or not. I think it just extended because otherwise it would have just stopped right at the end of the calendar year for people that hadn't gotten it already, even the first one.
Okay.
So they extended it for a year, just for new people, is my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Say, Brian, thank you for actually sharing your information with us. Quick question for you. Can you go over EIDL? What is EIDL? Because I haven't done my research on, a little bit lost on what EIDL is.
Great. Yeah. So it stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And so it is a low interest loan directly from the federal government or SBA to a small business to help to pay expenses that you normally would be able to cover, but for COVID. And so it's kind of a working capital loan. The great thing about it is that it's got a 30-year term. So the monthly payments are pretty spread out, and there's no fees to apply for it. So let's say you're interested in it, you can just go to sba.gov, and it's pretty easy to find more information on that program. But basically, it's a working capital loan from SBA. It's not for expansion. So really, what they're going to look at is, okay, what were your bills before the pandemic? And then, okay, you've taken a big revenue hit because of the pandemic. And then they look at, okay, they'll give you a low interest loan so that you can pay for your normal operating expenses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, Yi here with Manic Technology. Being that we don't have a brick and mortar or actual office store, we're all remote workers since we're in the IT field. Mm-hmm. What is it, the PPP loan or EIDL loan that my team and I would qualify for, or which route should we approach or take?
Now, did you do any of either of those programs at all last year?
I received an EIDL loan of $1,000. That's about it, but everything else is always requiring an actual office. And I guess we're kind of in a different situation in terms of not having an office because we're all IT workers. So yeah, just trying to figure out how we approach that, because definitely with the pandemic, it's hit our revenue and business as well. So trying to figure out what's the best approach.
Great question. Yeah, I think I would definitely look into the PPP program because you would be eligible, likely, take a look at that if you've had a revenue reduction. Like I said, there's a couple new eligibility requirements for this round. So if you guys are down 25% in revenue, and you have less than 300 employees, I would take a look at PPP. The great thing about that program is it's fully forgivable if you use 60% of your PPP loan on payroll. So I would definitely take a look at PPP, and then that program is through an SBA lender. There's over 300 of them here in Minnesota, and we have a list of those lenders on our website. But basically, almost any lender here, you can ask if they're doing PPP. Obviously, whoever you have a relationship with, and I would recommend taking a look at the PPP program. I'm a little curious to know if your EIDL was an EIDL advance or an EIDL loan. If it was just an EIDL advance in the last round, you might want to look into an EIDL loan also.
Oh, I think it's just an EIDL advance because
Okay.
I don't think it was a loan because it's not for sure it wasn't a loan. So
Okay. I would maybe explore that option too then.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, I think there's some questions regarding on how do you prove 25% loss of revenue?
Yeah. So that would be all in the application, which hasn't been put out yet. So there are details there. You look, it's kind of like the form, at least on the first round. It's almost kind of like doing your taxes a little bit. Like it kind of walks you through, okay, you go through and it calculates average monthly revenue in 2019. And then what they would do is they would look at that same average between 2019 and 2020. And then was there a 25%, were you down 25%?
Anybody else have questions? Peng, I know you had a few questions too. Did you get them all answered?
So I'm just seeing, I mean, there is, you have to demonstrate 25% in reduction in gross receipts in the first, second, or third quarter of 2020 relative to the same 2019 quarter.
Brian, do you have some information where we can contact you directly if we want to follow up with you, or just kind of for people that are kind of newer to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, let me drop that in the chat.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
And then Brian, Peng is not here. I noticed that she dropped off, but she did have a question regarding about if they have not started their forgiveness application from their first round of PPP, are they still eligible for the next round of the PPP?
As far as I know, that would be the case because you don't have to have your first one forgiven because you have 10 months after your covered period to apply for forgiveness. Okay. So it depends on obviously, when you got your PPP loan, but for most people, your forgiveness application is not due until sometime the middle of 2021 for a lot of people because of that 10 months. So late spring, summer of 2021 would be the due date. Given there's been, so many legislative changes, I think there's a lot of people that haven't put in their forgiveness applications yet. So you're not alone in that case. But you do have to have used, was the language I think I saw, you do have to have spent your PPP funds on your first PPP loan. You don't have to have requested forgiveness.
Okay, and then regarding PPP, and in the EIDL, can businesses apply for both, or do they have to pick one or the other?
Nope, you can apply for both. Yeah, so you can certainly get both. They're slightly different. And obviously EIDL is a direct loan, so that would be a loan that you take on that you have to repay over 30 years. Of course, there's no prepayment penalty. So if you decide things change and you just don't want that loan anymore, you can pay it back at any time, and there's no penalty for that. I think the only fee that there is on that is a UCC filing fee when you apply. So there's also no fee to apply, but there would be a credit check.
And then this may be a question you may not know, but a member was wondering, will the banks who they originally worked with when receiving the PPP funds be notifying them in the second round? Or is that just up to the banks?
That one would be up to the banks. Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to start preparing for now, is if you already did get a PPP loan, check in with your lenders, and kind of make sure you're on the radar there. We're gonna be having certainly a lot of trainings coming up with when we have the application. How do you fill it out? And I think stay connected with our office here, because we're going to have some really just nice basic trainings on that. If you do have a CPA or an accountant or someone who can help you with finance, that's another good person to kind of check in with, because they have a lot of expertise. CPAs are up to date on PPP and the tax deduction rules around that. So I would recommend in the meantime right now, just kind of check in. If you already got a PPP loan, check in with your lender, just so you're on their radar. Check in with your CPA.
Brian, just for clarity on the prior question where borrowers can apply for both PPP and EIDL, I just want to clarify that it's correct that though they can do both, but the funds cannot be used for the same purposes, correct?
So so it is, yeah, I mean, there is an overlap with the purposes. So, obviously you can use EIDL to pay for your operating expenses, and also PPP is for payroll, which is an operating expense also. So really there, you just want to kind of look at the eligible uses of both programs, but certainly you can apply for both. There's a lot of people who have gotten both. I think we've heard from some businesses just on the call here today. PPP is really specifically for payroll, because you want to hit most of the funds from PPP for payroll, so it's fully forgiven. And then the EIDL can be used for other expenses that aren't eligible under PPP.
Thank you.
And there are some concerns, Brian. I know that this new round that you guys are trying to do more for smaller businesses, which we saw that there's a new requirement for 500 employees or less. Is that a tactic to ensure that large corporations do not deplete the funds like last time?
Yeah, so the cap is 2 million, not 10 million. And publicly traded companies are no longer eligible. So I think it's good that you guys are on the call now. We're preparing. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of everything I know I've kind of shared at this moment. So it's not in some cases that I don't know. It's just that the program's not up and running and live. So there's not certain questions we can answer at this point. But yeah, I think that's the intent, is to really help small businesses. The size is down to 300 or less, and really to try to go more to underserved communities than in the past. For those who are kind of on the sidelines, unsure if they wanted to do this or not, it's a federal program. I think there's a lot of people who can attest that they've already even had their loan forgiven. And that process is rolling, and forgiveness is happening. And so yeah, I think there is less funding under this round. It's like I mentioned, 85 billion. So I think it's good to be prepared and start having those conversations, start getting prepared now, so when the program does open, you can make sure that I don't think there's going to be the mad rush like there was with PPP under the first round, though.
Okay. And I saw something on the slide that mentioned, that was just right below the appropriate, the 248 billion appropriation. There's a 25 million set for minority businesses. Is that still part of the PPP, or is that something separated part of the stimulus package?
Let me just pull that up real quick. I'm just going to share my screen again, if that's
Okay.
all right. So I don't know if you can see that, yeah. So there is the 284 billion for direct appropriations. There are different set-asides. So that's another reason that the program isn't up and running and live yet. Things are just a bit more complicated, so it's going to take a few more days before things open. But there is 15 billion for PPP loans issued by CDFIs and MDIs. 15 billion for PPP loans issued by certain small depository institutions, so community banks. And then there's a set aside for 35 billion for first-time borrowers. So 15 billion for smaller first-time borrowers with 10 or fewer employees. So I think there is a lot of kind of set asides and criteria here that will help preserve funding for even smaller businesses. Absolutely. So there's kind of just maps it out here. 25 billion for second draw PPP loans for smaller borrowers with 10 or fewer, or loans less than 250,000 in low income areas.
All right, thank you. This is a lot of information.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot, I'm just quite overwhelmed, but definitely there's a lot to go on from here. Does anybody have any other questions? I do really want to thank you, and I really want to wrap this up too. So if you have further questions, you can ask them now, or you have Brian's contact in the chat box here too, or you can refer them to me and I'll get in contact with Brian. Any last concerns or comments, questions for Brian before we let him off? All right then. Thank you so much, Brian. You have been just tremendous, and I know that we will continue having this relationship and going forward, and we work closely together too. So I really am just overwhelmed with the support that we have from your office. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely stay in touch and how we can roll this out better to our community so that they don't get left behind on this. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Brian. All right, so that is our update with Brian, SBA. If you have any questions, concerns after this, please let me know. I will be following up with more information through email, and we will be uploading this recording too on our website and also on our Facebook if you want to go back to it, because I don't think we'll be getting a copy of the PowerPoint. Mostly it's because Brian is expecting new updates to it as well this afternoon. But if you want to look at it again, I will be uploading the recording later this afternoon. Other than that, we'll be going into our updates for member meeting here. If you have received your member packet from us, you will notice that we have our connections meeting coming up on the 20th from noon to 1. And this is mostly just a way to connect and network with our members and also supporters that want to engage with our chamber. We don't have any in-person meetings scheduled so far. Hopefully, with the restrictions loosening up, we might see some more in-person engagements in the future, but please look forward to them. I know that we do have a few signature events that we want to do, but it's still a little bit up in the air on whether or not we're going to do them because of just how the situation is going on right now. But we're hopeful. Many other chambers are already planning their in-person events, so we should definitely be planning ours as well. But I would look forward to meeting with you all this coming year. It's going to be a great year, better than 2020. And I look forward to chatting with you all again. And if you haven't schedule a meeting with me, please do so. I would love to meet with you individually, either through Zoom, a phone call, or in person if you're comfortable with that. Would definitely love that. And just, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I will be on leave for maternity leave. I'm expecting, so I will be on maternity leave in around April to June. So just an FYI, if you plan to meet me then, I will be available. Other than that, this is just pretty much a quick member meeting for today. Would love to connect with you guys next month for our member meeting. Our member meetings are the first of Thursdays of every month, so definitely stay connected with us. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. You know how to contact me by now. If you don't, I'll drop my information in the chat box here. But that's the wrap up of our member meeting today. It was just really quick and just wanted you all to get the information that you need for the PPP and EIDL. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, I will be sending updates and follow-ups too. So that's it. Unless you have any questions or concerns, I'm here until we wrap up. Other than that, thanks all. Bye.